Oh my goodness. Hello. Sorry, I'm running a little bit late today. Just because I had a lot to fit in this morning. But I'm here now. And hopefully everything's working. I had to update OBS after last stream. Because it was like, if you don't update, it'll disconnect from your account. So I was like, okay. Which tells you how good I am about doing updates to things. But I have this a widespread paranoia that every time I update something, it's just gonna break everything. So I guess we'll find out. I guess we'll see if that's a thing, which occurred. But if you see any problems with sound or anything, it seems like everything is picking up everything else potentially. So fingers crossed. With all the between OBS and my computer lately, it's just sometimes it just seems like a toss-up if things are going to work or not. Sorry. Okay. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind since last stream on Monday. I had a moment when I was going live where I was like, what day is it? What am I even doing? What is happening? On Monday morning, I actually finished a book on stream. It felt super nice. I have actually, because I haven't deleted it yet, I have this nice screenshot that I took afterwards. So this is Visions Unlike They Seem. This is the third trilogy, to me, book 3 in the Aruvalia Chronicles, but it's actually books 7, 8, and 9 that I just finished. So I primarily wrote the first book, Honey Tinged Lies, between September and November of last year, largely off stream because it was before it even occurred to me to start doing streams of any kind. So that was written, that was also before I started doing like timers, sprint timers, and all that kind of stuff. And then I started Ever Twisting Wounds, the second installment of that trilogy, book 8, in November. This was my NaNoWriMo project. I don't believe that I finished the book in November, but I did start it in November, and I did write 100,000 words in it in November, which felt pretty amazing. So that was when I started streaming. It was the first thing that I kind of... it wasn't the first... Like, I wrote a short story and stuff before I did the actual, like, novel writing sessions. But it was the first novel project that I did on stream. And then in January of this year, we started the third installment in that series, Blood Forged Bonds, on stream, which was kind of cool. And I streamed, not the whole thing, but I've streamed on and off throughout the creation of that book, and then finished it on Monday this week, February 28th, which felt pretty nice, actually, not gonna lie. Just to make sure. Just have this deep paranoia that so you might hear double audio for a second. Will it just make sure... Audio for a second. Okay. It does sound like... Hopefully the infinity loop turns off there. It does sound like you should actually be able to hear me. I just want to make sure I'm not, like, silently streaming, saying all this stuff. So anyway, we finished this on Monday. It felt really nice. a big accomplishment. I try to always at least take a minute to be happy about when I finish something, when I finish a draft of something, even though writers, we tend to finish something and then reward ourselves for finishing it with instantly doing more work, which is what I did. But I also try to take a moment, at least internally, to celebrate that. So I basically write my series in trilogies. So this trilogy was in the works between September of 2021 and February of 2022. Pretty big project, a lot of time involved. As you can see, each installment is over 100,000 words. So there's at least 350,000 words of new content here, which feels good. I mean, it's a total train wreck and it needs a lot of work, but it feels good to have gotten through that. So that was Monday, and after I did that, after I finished, after we wrote the end, I went away from my keyboard for a little bit, and I came back and I updated my outline. So I've kind of talked about this before, that I do keep an outline document. This isn't the outline for that book. This is the outline for this book. But I do keep an outline document, and I went back to, let me see if I can sort of make it easier to see. I went back to Visions Unlike They Seem, the book that we finished on Monday, and I just basically went through my outline and I updated the outline so that it matched what I had written. There were a lot of things that I changed on the fly. There were a lot of things that I had to fill in because towards the end of the book, I just had a lot of notes that were like, something happens, or there's a misstep, or things get bad. And so there were not really a lot of specifics. I was sort of filling in the story as I went, as I sort of figured it out and felt my way through it. So I went back and I updated my outline so that it reflects what I actually wrote, because when I go back to do edits, this is the document that I'm going to work from. Why am I here? Hello! I hope you're here to hang out and have some chill times. Just sort of catching everyone up on what I've done since last stream. Because I finished, I shouldn't have closed this because I just had this up, but we finished this book on Monday on stream, which felt super nice. And now I'm just 69 chapters. I know, right? Browse. We wrote chapter 69 on stream. Hi, Tempest. How are you? What are you up to? So now if I were to click on one of these chapters, it would reflect what I actually wrote. It's ready for, I also do, I don't want to hang out on any of these too long, but I leave myself little notes in the margins, so that I know sort of what, I feel like I missed or what I feel like needs finished, in that part of, the document, so that when I come back, I usually let my big stuff sit for, I think that's why I am here. Well, nice! I'm glad that you're here. How has your day been treating you so far? Sorry, train of thought, jumped the track completely. So when I come back for edits, I tend to let my big projects sit for about a year before I touch them again. So this is just going to percolate, steam in its own juices. I'm going to think about all of the horrible train wreck that's wrong with it. I'm going to try to come up with ways to fix it. I'm going to push it all, sort of compact it all in the back of my mind, let it do its work, let the garden grow, and then I'll come back and prune it again, make some notes when it's time to edit these books. And what I've actually done this morning is I have come back to The Beast's Wicked Gleam, which is the book that we're going to be working on today. We're going to be starting edits for this today. And I've actually taken all of that information that I've sort of been processing on this book for a year, all of the things that I've been thinking about, all of the problems that I've identified, and I've tried to come up with solutions for them and made notes on how to fix that. So just a peek at my outline here, trying to write, but Lost Ark messed up my tempo. Oh no! That's the problem with MMOs. The siren call is so strong. Doing well, waiting for food to be delivered. Nice. Do you mind if I ask what you ordered so I can get excited about you eating it? Because I love food, just in general. I hope it doesn't keep you waiting long. I hope you get your yummy, delicious food. So I've kind of showed little bits and pieces of this before, but this is what my outline looked like at the end of February last year when I finished writing this book, Life Beyond Time. This is sort of what everything looked like, and you can see that I had a lot of notes. In particular, I had this one all caps note, which I was very stressed about. But you can see that there were 18 chapters in the original first draft of Madness Beyond Control. Some of those chapters have more than one scene in them. Some of them only have one. So this is basically what I wrote when I was trying to write this story, and it felt like a total train wreck. So I've copied that into a new document, and you can see that I've removed all the hyperlinks because all the numbering is going to change. There are 21 chapters in the planned edit of Madness Beyond Control, so it's grown 3 chapters, it's grown 4 scenes. One of the scenes is going to be tacked on to another chapter. And so I've basically gone through here, I've organized my thoughts. A big burrito! Nice! That's one of Ghost's favorite things to order as well. So I've basically gone through here, I've organized my thoughts, I've tried to find where all my holes are, where all my concern points were, and I've tried to find ways to address them, either by adjusting the scene, changing which characters are in which places. In this case, I need to add a subplot because some of my side characters have kind of disappeared into the ether at the beginning of the book. And then they sort of melt out of the woodwork later in the book, and I really need them to be more present throughout the events that are occurring so that they feel more grounded in the narrative, and so that it feels like the narrative is also about them, because it is technically also supposed to be about them. So while my main character is off in another place doing something, I just have to add some scenes where we see what the other people are doing back home, so that when the sort of everyone converges again, it doesn't feel like they're coming out of nowhere. And one of the biggest things is, you'll notice, so everything in red is something new, something that I have to add to the book that isn't already in there. So an addition or a change that I have to make. There are some things that are just straight crossed out, either because I moved them or because I decided not to do them. There's none in the first couple chapters here. But this is basically what it looks like. And I've also done this here. Oops, I don't know why it's selecting that way. So for each scene, I have taken a moment to think about the POV characters' motivations, the obstacles that they're facing in that scene, and what story element I'm working with. So this is mostly just reference for me so that I can keep track and make sure it feels like something is happening in every scene. So basically, the main things that you need for every scene, I try not to think too much about this necessarily during the initial draft stage, because I'm just trying to get all my thoughts out of my head. But edits is a good time to think about this. In every scene, your character should want something. First and foremost, whoever your narrator is, whoever's taking action in a scene, they should want something. They should want to accomplish something. They should want to get something out of the events that are occurring. So that's basically my motivation. My character has a desire that needs to be fulfilled. So that basically puts me into the headspace of what is trying to be accomplished in this first scene, or in any scene. And then the obstacles are the challenges. Want a big burrito? Me too. I'm actually making chicken chili tacos for dinner tonight, though. So that, I mean, it's not a burrito, but it's close. I don't actually like beans. beans, so I don't usually put beans in my burrito, but we do have rice and beans that Ghost could throw into the chicken and make a burrito instead of tacos if he wanted to. But he likes tacos, so he'll probably go with that. But anyway, the obstacles are basically whatever stands in the way of what my character wants. Most scenes, I won't say every scene, but most scenes should have obstacles. Obstacles are sort of what makes the scene interesting. Because if my character wants milk and all they have to do is walk to the fridge and get milk, there's not a lot of interest in that story. But if my character has to navigate a darkened set of hallways because something bad will happen if they turn on a light in order to reach the safety of the kitchen, then those obstacles that lay between my character and their milk is what makes the story interesting, right? So in this case, we're starting out really simple because it's the opening scene of a book. We're starting with Dameron just wants to, hey J Chili, welcome to this insight into how I start my edits. So we're starting with something really simple. Dameron wants to report on his most recent mission that he's just returned from. And more importantly to him and to us, is that he has experienced something unpleasant during this mission that he does not want to think about. But if your character wants milk and the fridge with the milk is in hell, there's a problem. Exactly. And it's a much more interesting story if the fridge is in hell. Just putting it out there. How are you, J Chili? What are you up to? And then we have the obstacles. The obstacle here, as I said, is mostly that he's had this experience and he can't shake it, which is actually going to eventually pull through into our main plot. And then we have the story element, which in this case is kind of basically our hook. You want to always start a book with a hook. Sounds like a nice vacation going to hell. I mean, it depends. The weather might be nice there this time of year. It's certainly shitty weather where I am. So our story element here is I'm establishing what has happened in between the last book and this book. There's been about a year in between books 3 and 4. So there's a little bit of what has my main character been up to and what is he currently sort of working on. But I'm showing his new status quo. So if you think about, I'm not going to go too deeply into this, but if you think about the plot graph of how plot works, you start with status quo, and that is where your character currently is. And then your character encounters an inciting incident which introduces potential change, and thus tension, into their lives. And the status quo changes. Whatever situation the character is in at the beginning of the story ultimately has to change in order for the story to have motion. So I'm introducing my status quo. I'm showing you where my character is and giving you a hint of what problem my character is facing and potentially needs to change. So we do not necessarily have an inciting incident in our chapter 1, but because this is a later series book, obviously the first book in the series and even the second and third books in the series have inciting incidents right in those first chapters. They're throwing you right into action. But because this is a bit later in the series, readers are more familiar with these characters. Readers are going to be interested in the personal life of this character, theoretically, because they've already read 3 books about him. We're taking a little bit of time to introduce that status quo, to catch up on the year that has passed, and sort of show that. So the inciting incident, you'll notice I've marked as down here in actually chapter 3. Actually, I would think it's actually in chapter 4, but we have the call to action here in chapter 3. So right away you'll notice I said everything in red in the outline is a new edition. This is where I started this book previously. I really liked writing this scene. It's cute. It's got some interesting character interactions in it. It does a good job of showing the status quo of these characters post last book, but it didn't have any tension. It's a very lighthearted scene, and it doesn't necessarily make sense to have that interlude without any tension being present. And so one of the things that I've thought pretty much since I wrote that scene was that I wanted to find some way to go back and pull tension through this happy event without actually ruining it, if that makes sense. I want this to largely stay the same, but I want to ever so slightly alter the tone and atmosphere of the scene, so that it feels a little more almost uncanny, right? So basically, the idea here is that my main character has something going on in his job that is starting to spill over and interfere with his personal life. And so we basically have this sort of darkness that's creeping into his life, which we're hinting at right here in this brand new scene. It's one of the reasons why we're creating this scene, is to show that something is wrong in Paradise right from the start. Things aren't quite where they want to be, but then in juxtaposition to what's going on in his career, he has this really happy moment, these really good things that are going on in his home life. And so it's sort of this, the way that we're sort of creating that tension is to show that disconnect between who he is when he's working and who he is when he's at home, and how what's happening in his job is starting to sort of spill over and interfere with the things that he is happy about. And so the idea behind making this chapter, this brand new chapter 1, is essentially just to introduce the main hook for the story, to introduce that tension right away from the get-go, and make sure that it's sort of coloring everything else that's happening in the background, so that when I actually grab that thread and tug on it, it feels like you've been building into it. It feels like you've been moving towards it, instead of having that thread tug come a little bit out of nowhere. Because the way it's written right now is it's like, oh, everything's happy, everything's great, and then all of a sudden bad things start to happen. So it's much better to have that subtext, even if it's just subtext, even if it's sort of an unspoken tension. It's not going to be quite that subtle, but it's better to have it in there. So these are the sort of things I know I've talked about, like when I'm first drafting, I just kind of spit out whatever's in my brain and just word vomit onto the page and worry about it all later. So I'm at the worry about it all later stage now. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what the opening of this book needs, and opening chapters are really important, because if you don't grab interest right away on the first page, people won't read, right? So I'm taking something that feels cute but uninteresting, interesting to a certain subset of my readers but not interesting to everyone, and trying to create something that's interesting to everyone, so that people will get their fluff that they want, but also everyone will be interested in what's happening in the story from the beginning. Roaming Witch, hello, how are you? I was just going over some of the changes that I'm hoping to make to this novel that we're editing today. Actually, I should have updated. I should update what my current project is. Hang on, can I do it live? Will it like screw everything up? Can I do this? Is everything exploding? How are you, Roaming Witch? Did I say this? Am I in one of my loops? And what are you up to? Let's see. I want to change this. Will it not let me edit it while I'm doing a thing? Here we go. Here we go. And then if I hit save... There we go. Now it's up to date what we're actually working on. This week hurts. Fiance's car went kaput and either we pay 5.5k for repairs, oh no, or scrap the car. That is rough. That is a lot of money to put into a car. I got a sick kitty going to the vet and rent is due, but otherwise holding in there. Oh no. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that. Hopefully you get good news with your kitty at least. Because most important thing I would assume, taking care of kitty. But that's a really hard choice to make. How new is the car? Is it, I hate to say it, but is it worth putting the extra money into it versus trying to get a new one? But I guess if you can't trade in the car, then it's much harder. Because when we got our car that we have now, we traded in our old car, which went a long way towards getting the new car. So I know it basically comes down to putting the money into saving the car, or get it, like, if you can afford a new one, what kind of money that would be. Those are the worst kinds of decisions to have to make, because I assume you have to look at your budget and you have to, yike. I'm sure there's something I can do to help, but let me know if there is something I can do to help, because car stuff is always the worst. Hopefully, maybe if you talk to the landlord, they'd be understanding and maybe let you, because I know we always, if our tenants need to pay a little late, we're always like, hey, it's fine, just let us know ahead of time what's happening and when to expect it, and we're pretty good about that. But I know some landlords are really hardcore. It's freaking old. The repair is the same as the car's worth, so we're looking at scrapping it. Yeah, that's the problem. If the car isn't worth that amount of money, then you're kind of just, and when cars get that old, you're kind of just patching the same hole over and over, right? Like, it's unfortunate, but eventually with cars, you get to a point where it's just better to try and get something that's not going to keep having the same consistent problems. We're lucky that both our parents are more than ready to help out and give advice. That is helpful as well. We can pay for everything, but it would wipe us out. Usually not a big deal, but we've got the wedding coming up. Oh no! It always seems like the universe knows the right time, the exact right time to kick you in the gut. But like you said, at least you have family who's willing to help out and give advice. And I'm definitely thinking of you both, keeping you both in my thoughts, hopefully you'll get good news, and be able to find something that isn't going to cost an arm and a leg to sort out. I know that it's always rough when you've got a big life event that's costing a lot of money, and like that happened to us when we bought this house. We decided to go ahead and buy the house. We knew it was going to take us to the edge of our finances, but we decided to go ahead and do it. And then every little thing just kept popping up, and it's more money, a little more money here and a little more money there. And suddenly you're looking at your bank account and you're like, all right, well, this is an emergency, but where's the money coming from? How do we keep money in the bank account? Is there a way that we can get this to come out of next month's expenses? And like, even to the point where something happened with how we signed on our new mortgage, and they started taking payments earlier than they were supposed to, and I had to call the bank and be like, listen, this can't be happening right now because they need that money for something else. But we were very fortunate in that we also had people who were helping us out, and we were able to get through. So I hope the same thing happens to you. It's a bummer, but I'm optimistic. I think we'll be okay. that's a good attitude to have, and I'm sure you will. I know these kind of things suck, but hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel is the brightest. And wedding, super exciting. Food is almost here. Why am I here? I'm so glad to hear that. Let us know when you're enjoying that sweet burrito. So, all that lecturing to say that we're writing this new scene today. I actually have a scene that I want to use for this. So way back in the long ago, when I very first started doing writing prompts on my blog, I wrote one. The prompt was just simply colors. And I wrote this really, I actually opened it up this morning and looked at it. I wrote this really simple, where's my tag cloud? I wrote this really simple sort of, this piece that sort of focused on the color red, because the idea was to focus on sort of carnage and bloodshed, versus the color red in like warmer and homier contexts. So I have this little scene. It's actually less than I think it's like less than 1,000 words long, actually. Also super excited to see an author edit their work. You hardly ever get to see the process, so it's super cool. Yeah, I'm a little nervous because I feel like, I felt like me writing wasn't all that exciting in the first place, but I feel like there's going to be less keyboard ASMR and more me screaming at sentences to be sentences. But I'm excited to try it out and see what happens. Today is going to be, I'm adding a new scene today, so it's going to be a little bit more like my regular streams. But next Monday in the morning, I'm going to be doing like just full on edits. So that'll be really interesting to see. But today I'm actually going to be using this scene. Now this is written in 2 parts, and I'm sort of going to cut them apart and put them together in a different order. I'm also going to change the dialogue because this scene actually takes place. I've I've made this scene uncanon in the course of writing the novels. The time period during which this scene was meant to take place is now actually filled with other events, and this is not one of them. But what I'm going to do is rearrange it to make it re-canon in a slightly different place. And so basically the idea is I'm going to use this entrance of Dahmerin returning to the palace to make his mission report, and I'm going to cut up the little bits and pieces of the flashback which happened between books and have them sort of creep into the scene as it's going. So this is actually a really good, even though I'm basically going to be rewriting a new scene kind of from scratch, it is a good example of editing because I'm taking a pre-existing body of work and I'm transposing it over into something new. Enjoy your lurk. Why am I here? I hope that means that your food has arrived. Enjoy that burrito. So this, as you can see, was written in 2015. So my writing style was also quite a bit different back then than it is now. But I skimmed over this morning, and I think I can use a lot of it. Everything sort of from here to the end, probably not so much, but that still gives me this good solid bit here. And I like the juxtaposition between sort of warm home peace and out in the wilderness carnage wild sort of thing, because it's exactly what I'm trying to strike with this book and with this opening. So if anyone would like to read the scene that I'm going to be working from or follow along, I don't know why you would, But if anyone wants to check that out, that's over on my blog. And I'm probably going to open the Word document version instead of the blog version here on the side, but I will leave that up just in case we flip over to it at some point. And I'm going to get started. So this is, so I also add formatting to my books as I edit them somewhat. So if we were to open up the very first book in this series, you would see that I have some sort of formatting in here. So I'm going to, do I want to do that now or later? I need to basically insert a new chapter 1 here. So probably what I'm gonna do is actually just grab this. I'll just have 2 chapter 2s today. And I'm going to very messily just pop that in there. So it should basically be 2 blank lines, 1 blank line, 1 blank line. I know, silly thing to be worrying about, but this is one of the my weird neurotic things. Especially since actually what I'm probably just gonna do right from the start is put a page break in there. Just because it will stress me out less. To have that. So I'm going to be starting here. And I think what I'm going to do is because it's actually been about an hour already since I started setting up for stream. I'm going to, I think, establish what I want my first sentence to be, because in this case, it's much more important than when I'm working on my rough draft, because I do want this to be, if possible, ever so slightly more polished than my regular first drafts. I will eventually, so I didn't show this yet, I've actually updated this as well. So you can see here I've updated my tracker to show the edits. So everywhere that there's a red X, that's a scene that was already written during the first draft. So you can see that I'm planning on adding 4 different scenes into this novel that don't already exist. So what happens with those is when I get to them in the line, I will write them and I will come back, I'll edit everything else in between, and then I'll come back and edit those 4 scenes at the end, so that they've had a little bit of time to sit. And then once all of these have blue X's in them, I'll move on to the next book, and so on and so forth. This is a really good quick reference so I can just see what the novel is essentially doing, and what needs to be done with it. So just a cool little thing there. All right, so let me determine, I'm not going to turn on my sprint timer yet, because I want to just take a minute and really think about what I want the first sentence to be, and then I'll just take a quick little bio break and come back and do an actual, I'm in here now, I have to remember that, and then I'll do my first sprint and try to actually start getting some words down. So I have all of my writing prompts in here, and you can see that the last time I modified this document was June 29th of 2015. So I'm actually wanting to start here. And I I want to try and create a really vivid picture. Actually, I just thought of a note that I forgot to leave myself that I want to do. Just a minor little thing that I want to remember to do across this book. Right. Sorry, I'm much more flighty when I'm working on this. So, this starts with curtains swaying in the breeze. Fluffy white clouds, azure sky, wine-colored carpet. So I basically have to decide if I want to I have Skittles. I have to decide if I want to have one really short to the point sentence that focuses on a specific image like Crimson Curtains, or if I want to do a longer, that doesn't make sense, that popped up perfectly. Shagraz, hello, how are you? What are you up to today? So if I want to have a longer, more flowing sentence. The music is a little loud. I have it down, I thought I have it down pretty low, but I can try to turn it down more. Whoops. All right. Nope. I messed it up. All right. I have turned it down a percentage. Let me know if that helps. If not, I can turn it down more because I want you guys to be able to hear me. Although I like this image, Donner paused with his hand on the doorknob, trying to forget. Or do I want it to be the first sentence or the end of the first paragraph? Sorry, I have a thought in my brain, but every time I try to make it into a single sentence, it gets awkward. I'm trying to get the wine-colored carpet and the crimson curtains into the same sentence. I'm not sure if I should do it, but I'm trying to do it anyway. Okay. I like this sentence for a couple of reasons. Editor brain. Wine-colored carpet. Colored carpet. Alliteration. Good. Vast vaulted hallways. Vast vaulted. Alliteration. Good. People are going to tell you to avoid alliteration, and maybe, like, if you're getting ultra about it, probably, but a little bit of gentle alliteration pleases the brain. So this sentence, padded wine-colored carpet lined the vast vaulted hallway, along the right side of which crimson curtains, alliteration, swayed in the breeze. This is a very pleasing sentence. And there's 3 instances of alliteration in it, which, again, the brain is pleased by 3s. These are like weird little, finicky details. When you're writing so much, you don't necessarily think of these things, but when you're editing, these are the things that you sometimes want to pay attention to. Padded wine-colored carpet lined the vast vaulted hallway, along the right side of which crimson curtains swayed in the breeze. It's a pleasing sentence. It sets a vivid picture. Will it stay the first sentence of the book forever? Maybe not. But for today, I think it will. All right, this is where I've written a sentence. In 1 hour, I've done 1 whole sentence, but it's an important sentence, guys. I'm gonna pop a quick AFK. I'm just gonna pop up my BRB. Shagraz, do let me know if the music still feels a little bit loud, and I'll change it. I love language like that. I like the more elegant and somewhat flowery sentences like you see in fairy tales. Yeah, exactly. And I could start with a really short clipped sentence, but in this case, I'm trying to paint a really vivid word picture. So I want something flowing. I want something that draws attention to the accoutrement. I want something that points out the setting and makes it feel vivid and alive right from the get-go. I don't always necessarily think you should start with description for the opening of a book, but I think this works for what I want right now. So like I said, I'm gonna pop quick AFK just to take a bio break. I want to get back. I'm gonna actually I'm gonna actually grab out my iPad so I can put on my white noise. And I'm gonna actually turn on that sprint timer and actually try to get some words down. So 1 minute, if anyone needs to grab a drink, stretch their legs. Oh, that's my iPad freaking out. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know why it does that sometimes. I will BRB. Alright, I return. Roaming Witch, enjoy your lurk. Thank you for hanging out today. Alright, so I'm kind of... Can I get my iPad to cooperate? I'm kind of in I'm in a good place now. I know where I want to start. I'm really happy with that opening sentence. I'm gonna start paying a lot more attention to my opening lines and my closing lines than I have previously on stream because I'm in editing phase now. I want things to start to feel polished. I want things to start to feel, I want them to start having punch and impact. So, probably will notice me spending 20 minutes on a single sentence every now and then, just because I really need it to be where it is. But now that we've got the opening, I know what I want to focus on. I have a really solid idea of what I want the opening of this scene to feel like. I'm gonna go ahead and put on that sprint timer and actually start sort of getting more into the usual. So let me bring up my white noise. I eat another Skittle because I can. Alright, I'm going to turn on a sprint timer. I'll see what we can do in 20 minutes. Woof! Hello, you missed my giant lecture on what we're doing with the opening of this new opening chapter. It's okay, you get to be here for the writing of it. The iPad's being a jerk. My iPad doesn't like the keyboard that came with it, and so it will constantly just beep at me. There's something I don't quite like about this paragraph yet. Also, how are you, Wolf? What are you up to? This is why I want my iPad to be more cooperative. I'm a nerd. I think I'm finally happy with that paragraph. Ended up doing a bunch of shredding of super old documents, like 10-year-old printouts. Wow. I'll tell you after the sprint what I've been up to today. gonna need to fix this because I can't see my iPad turning off and it's interrupting me. That should maybe solve the problem for now. I don't like doing that, but so I have to remember to turn my alarm on later so I don't oversleep tomorrow, but everything might be working now. For another shade of red here. These clacks are clicking like baby clicking their whole clacks. Welcome, Peter. How are you? What are you up to? Clicky clacks are slow today because I'm editing. What did I miss? Been doing some 350 words. Tempest, that's awesome. Just me fighting with my iPad. And very slowly writing this new opening chapter for this book. I'm going a little slower than usual because I'm in the editing stage. So we're gonna see much slower word counts here than in other sprints. Alright. See, these word counts much lower than our normal word counts. We're at 442. I started this stream at about 2:40, and it's about 4 o'clock now, to give you some idea of how it's going. But I'm being much more slow and meticulous in the writing of this scene because I'm in the editing stage. I want this to be a little bit cleaner when I come back to it next. So I'm working my brain real hard. So let me see. Wolf just got home. Doing a bunch of shredding of super old documents at work, like 10-year-old printouts of email. I guess like those 10-year-old printouts have to go somewhere, right? How did I spend my morning? Mostly just going through this here outline of this here train wreck and trying to decide how to fix it. Trying to decide how to make it be the book that it should be instead of the book that it currently is. It's not necessarily been easy, so yeah, it was a lot. That was one of the reasons why I was a bit late getting stream started. Good but sleepy and frustrated. So much to do, so little time to do it, and I'm in such a sulk. Oh gosh, Peter, I feel that. My March has filled up like a snap. Long story short, Streamlabs imported scenes from my old PC and deleted the scenes from my new PC, and I don't have the time or energy to rebuild them. Oh no! Oh, that's the worst. I wonder how it even managed to do that. So my temporary break from streaming is going to become longer. Yeah, I mean, you need time to sort that kind of stuff out. I have to figure out how to do a complete reinstall of Windows into my computer at some point in the near future, and that's going to be fun. So I'm not looking forward to that at all. It does seriously suck. The sacred document. The ultimate all of my series Bible document. Woof, you'll probably want to go back and rewatch the first 40 minutes or so of the stream, because I did a nice lecture on how I get ready for my edits and what I'm doing with the editing today and why this is all going so slowly. But I'm pleased with how I'm working. If anyone was wondering, I'm working from another older document. Whoops, what did I just do? I thought I somehow accidentally friggin' closed OBS somehow. I'm working from this here. Old prompt that I wrote and sort of transposing bits and pieces of it over into a new scene. This is only 979 words, and we can't use about like 300 or 400 words of it. So theoretically, we've only got about another 300 to 400 words to transpose over from there, and then everything else will be new. But I've still got at least another 1,600 or so words to go if I want this to hit about 2,000. So, but this is typical for me in edits. Take forever to get started, hope for the best. I would just burn my PC down. I don't have the patience for that kind of shenanigan. If this computer wasn't only like a year and a half old, believe me, but it's needed a reinstall of Windows for quite some time, and I needed a new drive. I need a new drive, and I'm getting a solid state drive, so the best course of action for me, honestly, is to just reinstall Windows on the solid state drive, get everything working much more quickly. I'm kind of hoping it can wait until March break. It's going to decide. It's going to depend on the return window for the drive, because we have to make sure the drive fits in my computer. Is that? That sounds like a helicopter or something over my house. I don't know what's going on outside today. There's been so much noise outside today. My neighbor with his engine was like revving that engine like 4 times this morning. It was fantastic. And by fantastic, I mean awful. I have a question, and it's one I've pondered for a while and need other opinions and thoughts on. Well, go ahead and ask it, Peter. I'm probably going to do... I know I just did an AFK. Actually, I might do one more sprint first. I want to make some tea, and I'm thinking of making a matcha, but I might do one more sprint, before I do that, and have my tea closer to 4:30. Your neighbor with their Apache helicopter again? I know! Because you guys, anyone who was here and we streamed Monday morning was able to hear it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a lawnmower or a weed blower or a bike, but he turns it on and off like 5 times in a row. And he had some other guy over there like yelling at the top of his lungs, but I guess he was showing it to him. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but it's very loud. And I finally spotted them like in the next yard, and I was like, of course it's that neighbor, because he's like the king of dying engines and loud sounds. Maybe it stops working. I wouldn't be surprised. Every engine of everything that he owns sounds like it's dying all the time, so I wouldn't be surprised. Here's my question. I have a thing I've been working on for a long time, a very, very long time, and I'm kind of writing a spin-off of that with the same characters, but not quite. But here's the thing. I'm writing this one character, and it's looking like it's heading into a dark, horrible place for her, but I can't bear to do that kind of thing. I can't hurt her because I love her. I made her. I'm gonna stop you right now, Peter. I love all my characters dearly, and I hurt them anyway, because... if your character is telling you a story, then that's what happens to them. And it sucks because we don't want to, like, okay, so people have this idea that authors are these people that sit around and rub their hands, and they think of all these evil, awful, terrible things to do to their characters because then people will cry over them. I'm telling you right now, I do not come up with a single one of the bad things that happens to my characters. My characters tell me their story. They tell me what happens to them. They tell me when they hurt. I don't want to write those scenes. In fact, the scenes that are hardest for me to write are the scenes where someone dies, or where someone gets horribly hurt, or where there's insane emotional impact, and I have that hesitation because I know it's going to hurt my characters, and I don't want to hurt those people. I love those people. They live in my head. They came from me. They're parts of me. But here's the thing. If your character is telling you that that's what happens to them, then the only way to do justice to their story is to let them tell their story. And if that story goes to a dark place for a little while, the only way to do justice to that experience, the only way to allow that character to fully realize who and what they are and to triumph from their story is to let them tell that story, even if it hurts. So how do I put my characters in harm and hurt them in a permanent way? I wince and I cry and I hate it and I do it. I write the words and I let them guide me. I let my characters tell me where they're going and what they're doing. And then I have a box of tissues and a giant glass of wine and try to reassure myself that it'll get good for them again someday. Hopefully that character is telling you that there's a good ending for her in the end, and that makes the bad shit worthwhile. If they go through hell, but they come out the other side triumphant, that's what makes it worth it. Don't ask Megan, she's the queen of hurting characters. Now you know why. Because my characters tell me their stories, and I have to do justice to those stories. I have to do justice to my characters' emotional pain, physical pain, any kind of pain. I have to do justice to that. And that's how I do it, and that's why I do it. The more you love your character and the deeper their story, the better the drama when they die or something horrible happens. True. The more real your characters are, the harder that pain is gonna hit. That's what it seems like a lot. Like the story is kind of taking me there. I'm like, yeah, but nah, ice cream instead, it'll be lovely. It's not easy to write a dark story. It's not easy to have a character that you love suffer emotional pain. But sometimes it's about the story. Sometimes it's about what the story needs and about what's best for the story. And if your character is taking your hand and taking you in that direction, obviously prepare yourself for that. If it's hurting you to do that, then take it in pace. Take your time. Get yourself emotionally prepared for doing that. But always, ultimately, in the end, when my characters tell me that horrible things happen to them, and they do, I wrote an entire 140,000 words about Domeran's emotional trauma between him and his parents in the past, and believe me, it was hard. You know, when my characters tell me those things, I feel that the only way to do justice to their stories is to let them tell them, and so I buckle up and I buy cookies and I buy tissues and I buy wine. and I get through it and I cry and I get through it. Just follow the flow. Do what makes more sense to your story characters. If flow says they should die, then they should die. Sadly, yes. I feel like this may be the sort of content warning question. Is there anything wrong with writing implied horrible things? Do you think it's okay to write like a lead up and then in the aftermath not the actual hurting? You mean like a star wipe? Absolutely fine to not have the horrible thing happen on camera, especially if you yourself cannot stomach writing it. You can just have the character talk about it afterwards, or have it become clear that something happened without having to write it. Absolutely don't do anything that makes you uncomfortable, although I will say if you're writing on the edge of your comfort zone, then you're in the right place. You want to move beyond your comfort zone. You want to push into new limits. That's how we as artists discover new things and do new and interesting things. But if it's causing you like emotional harm to actually try to write something, then don't like 100% be true to your story, 100% let dark things happen to your characters, but don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt you over something. Absolutely make sure that you yourself are able to handle the emotional stress of what you're doing, first and foremost. I mean, I'll be the first person to say if your story goes dark, go there, but if it causes you emotional harm, if it causes you mental harm to do that, then stop when you start to feel like you're harming yourself, because nothing is worth harming yourself. I'm writing more in a TV script fashion than a novel, so it seems easier to just avoid showing it, but still doing it. Absolutely. If that feels right, if you don't feel like it needs to absolutely be seen in order for the impact to be felt, that's absolutely fine. And I've had scenes that fade to black and you find out about it later. I've there is a conversation in the book that I just recently wrote where one of the characters admits to having been sexually assaulted in the past. It was something that happened before the series started, so it never takes place on camera. You never see any of it happen, but the character does talk about the fact that this was something that happened, and that actually, to make the trauma deeper, that he was actually asked to lie about it having happened and hide the fact that it had happened. And he ends up talking about how that impacted him and how that impacted his career and the choices that he's made throughout time. But you never see it happen. It's never described in graphic detail. It's simply discussed. And I still think it has enough impact because you see how the character reacts to it, and you see how it has shaped events around it. And I read something really interesting once where if you think about drawing something, I guess an egg is a good example because we tend to think of them as white, but if you think of how as an artist you can create shape through absence, you can create outline by working with negative space, right? By drawing attention to what is not there. You can do that in writing too. You can create a context in which it's obvious that there is something, such as emotional pain, without ever actually describing the emotional pain. The absence becomes the definition, and that can be poignant as well. That can be powerful as well. Negative space, absence, implication, subtext. These things can paint a more vivid picture than actually an outline, right? So absolutely valid. That's 100% valid. It depends on the type, right? Like young adult, middle grade adult. I think that I think that even with adult work, you can have emotional trauma or physical trauma happen off camera. You don't always have to see it. But obviously, if it's a more young adult, then you're more likely to have it happen off camera for other reasons. But you don't always have to show it. The character I'm writing is a 17, 18-year-old, but it's set in early 1800s France, so in those days she's basically middle-aged. Not to mention, sometimes finding out about something like that can be a story itself. Exactly. So there's tons of options for that sort of thing. And really, honestly, trust your gut. If your gut is telling you this should happen, but maybe the reader doesn't need to see it, that's totally fine. Go with that. You can totally make that work. Writing doesn't really have rules aside from you have to make it work is really the only rule. You have to be able to make it work. And if you can make it work, then you can do it. It doesn't matter what people say you should do. It doesn't matter. If you make it work, and if it works for your story, then you're fine. Absolutely. It's actually a love story. Ooh, it's like this spin-off involves characters from the main story, but it's a story about how their love extends through the years and centuries and time and space. I like that. I really love that. And I can see how, in the 1800s, even with a love story, sometimes things get dark. I just 100% say trust your instincts. If you feel like having the thing happen off camera, there's tons of ways. Like, you can use body language, you can use behavior to indicate how those things have affected the character without having to show what she went through. And like that, it can become character trait. It can become, like Tempest was saying, finding out her story, finding out about what happened to her, and allowing her to express her pain and work through her pain. That can be a story in itself, and that can be the story. Sometimes you know, it's like I don't know if you've ever read, if anyone's ever read Catch 22. I'm gonna get back to another sprint soon because I gotta actually get some work in here. But if anyone's ever read Catch 22, there's a character in there. I believe she is a whore, a lady of the night. I don't use that as a derogatory term, but she's a harlot. That the main character often goes to see, and she talks about a scar that she has, this horrible scar on her back. But Yossarian, the main character, always makes it clear whenever he's describing her or describing his time with her that she doesn't have a scar. There's no physical marking on her body, but she insists that she has this scar, right? And it's a symbolism for emotional trauma. As the story goes on, as these dark things happen to Yossarian, he starts to understand this scar that this woman always talks about. He starts to understand where this scar came from and how she received the scar and why she talks about it as if it's a physical thing, even though it's not, right? And this is obviously a very extreme example of, you know, symbolism. But again, it goes to show you that the idea of presence and absence is something that you can work with that within a story, you know? So yeah, all that to say, you can 100% do what you're thinking of doing. Haven't read it but know of it. Catch 22 is an amazing book. Kind of hard to read because it's written in stream of consciousness, so it takes a lot of dedication to get all the way through it. But man, it's so good. It's so good. Just fiddling with the levels of my sound. All right, we're gonna do another sprint because I'm starting to get into this here, and then I'm gonna have a little pause and make some matcha. Thank you for the advice. Anytime, Peter. That's 100% what I'm here for. I hope that it was helpful. You know, at the end of the day, only you can decide what's best for you and what's best for your story, and 100% will respect and appreciate that, whatever decision you come to. But if you need any help getting through it, deciding what to do, all that sort of thing, this is exactly the right place to come. Halo Banshee, hello! Thank you so much for the stretch. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. I've been in my chair a lot today, so actually I'm gonna stretch my back a little bit here too, just gently. All right. Yes. Oh, feels so good. All right. Let's see. How am I feeling today? Pretty good. It's been pretty busy. Just trying to tear apart this outline and put it back together, getting into the mindset of this edit and what this book needs and all that sort of thing. It's also a bit dreary here today, which kind of sucks, but this time of year is kind of like this, so I get used to it. But doing pretty good overall. I'm gonna start that sprint timer. I'm gonna get a little bit quiet, but please feel free to keep talking in the chat, keep asking questions. I'll catch up. I will catch up after. Also, Halo Banshee, what are you up to? If you want to say. Otherwise, enjoy your arc. I just heard Mr. Pepper get home, so good thing that I waited on the tea, because now he'll get to have some too. My screen turning off. Welcome back. Why am I here? How was your burrito? Also, hey, the real salties. How are you? What are you up to? Sorry to be so quiet. I'm just finishing up a sprint. I got a slow start to today's scene, so I'm just just trying to get her done. Writing my book, but I'm starting at the end to figure out where I'm going with it. Interesting. I've heard of people using that method before, though I've never tried it myself. Sometimes I know the end when I start, and sometimes I don't. So I can understand wanting to figure out where you're going. Alright, sprint timers ended. Did quite a bit more that time. Not as much as I would have liked, but let's see. I believe we started there. So 734 this time, which does at least bring us past that 1,000 word mark. Depending on if I can get my brain to work with me here, I might be able to do this in one more sprint, almost certainly two. So, not as behind as I worried I would be. Again, I'm going a little more slowly with these sprints just because I am in the editing stage. I want this scene to be a slight bit cleaner so that when I do come back to edit it, it won't be as difficult, because I want it to be almost as polished, or hopefully as polished, as the rest of the story up to this point when my beta readers get to read it. Because after this draft, it goes to my beta readers and they get to read it. So, I'm kind of on the last major point that I want to cover in this, and then I will sort of lead out to the next scene. So it's going to be a shorter scene. It's hopefully going to put in some of that tension and draw some of that interest. I think I've finished with this. I don't think I need anything else from in here. Because I think I've pulled everything out of there that I could possibly pull out of there, and we're already at a longer scene than that one. So let me see what I missed in chat. We love a good stretch. It's just magical. Absolutely. I think I read that already. Had a pal who went to the Batman premiere, said it was really good. Is anyone hyped for the new Batman? Not my jam. Haven't really been into Batman since the whole Batman Begins thing. Not my type of Batman, but I think Ghost is into it. I think he was really interested in it. We've heard good things about it. If you're into that, if you're into Batman, then it's probably gonna be good. And if, like me, you're no longer into Batman, probably not my jam. I'm not a superhero movie person. For anyone who's like, what do you mean it's not your jam? I'm not like, Marvel's not really my jam. I watched some of them. I did really like the new Spider-Man movie. I won't lie, it was really good. But generally not the Marvel audience type person. I just watch those movies because Ghost likes them and I like hanging out with him. Heard it's delayed because of Russia. I don't know, but I would imagine that things being delayed would be that will happen more than likely. It affects more aspects of our lives than I think we probably realize. I honestly don't know much about movie releases right now because we haven't been leaving the house. We haven't been like going. We are hoping to this weekend. The things we had a birthday party planned for a friend of ours, Mr. Roboto, for those who've been on Ghost streams. We were gonna try to do a longsword class with him, and we had to cancel it. We had to delay it, and so we are hopefully gonna do that this weekend. But this will be the first time that we've been out of the house since like Christmas break, like in earnest, to actually like go do something. So, and I think the last thing we did out in public was we saw the new Spider-Man movie. So, so not really, I don't really know that much about like what's coming out because I just haven't really been keeping up with it. But I wouldn't be surprised if some things are being delayed. I think 22 movies about a superhero are enough, but that's just my take. Yeah, I mean, the superhero genre is definitely just not my genre. I feel like I'm just not interested in the types of stories that get told for the most part, which is not to say that superhero movies are bad or that other people shouldn't like them, because lots of people do like them. Obviously, there wouldn't be so many of them. It wouldn't be such a huge genre. Otherwise, it's just not where my interest sort of lies, right? And for me, I've had this conversation with my brother-in-law before, but like, if I don't think I'm gonna like a movie, I just won't watch it. Because there's no point, for me, there's no point in like watching something that's just gonna frustrate me when I'm clearly not the target audience. To the point where like, in the past, every now and then, Ghost is like, hey, do you want to see this movie? And I'm like, no, just go with Mr. Roboto or just go with so-and-so because they want to see that movie and you'll enjoy seeing that movie with them, and I don't want to see that movie, and if I try to go see that movie, I'm just going to ruin your enjoyment of that movie, sort of thing. So yeah, I just sort of stick to the stuff that I think is, and if something's borderline, like if I think, oh, I can watch that and like enjoy the experience, even though it's not like specifically the type of movie I'll love, then I'll go and I'll hang out with Ghost and I'll just, you know, it'll be a fun experience. But if I think I'm gonna go to a movie and just be like having fun with this, then I just won't go. I'll just go to a different movie. Ghost is pretty good at doing the same thing. Like, he goes, sometimes he just watches a movie because he knows that I'm into it and he just wants to hang out with me, and he's really sweet about that kind of stuff. But I can always tell, like, we watched a show together called A Discovery of Witches, which was more like, I wanted to watch the show and I was like, do you want to watch this? And he was like, I don't care, sure. And we watched it together, and I could tell the exact minute when it crossed the line from I can watch this because you want to watch it and get some enjoyment out of hanging out with you, to being, I am not enjoying this anymore because the sarcastic comments just flow endlessly. He's just like, everything that they do in the show, he's like, what is this? Why is this? And I'm like, okay, you've clearly crossed the line into the show's pissing you off. He becomes Crow from Mystic. I'm not familiar, but I'm gonna say yes. That sounds accurate. I am gonna do a quick AFK, grab some tea, because it's later than I usually grab some tea. I think I'm just gonna make myself a quick matcha. I think my matcha chai is close to hand, so I'm just gonna make that real quick. I'll probably be AFK for about 3 or 4 minutes. I'll come back, we'll do another sprint. I honestly think that this scene is gonna be pretty short, especially because I'm really trying hard not to ramble in this scene, so I won't have a bunch of crap to cut later. So I really think another 20-minute sprint might see us to the end of this. So let's have a quick bio break. Grab a drink if you need one. Have a quick stretch. Mystery Science Theater 3000. I knew what it was. Sorry, I know what Mystic is. I've just never seen it. I guess I should specify. I know that Wolf has seen it. I know that other people who hang out in the chat have seen it. I'm vaguely aware of what it is. I just don't know who the people are. So I got the reference. I should have specified. I got the reference. I just don't know who Crow is. But if I tell that to Ghost, he will know, and that's the important thing. Also, I gotta go track down Mr. Pepper and see if he wants a tea. So, BRB. Okay. Completely the wrong thing. I am back. Mr. Pepper is not having tea because Mr. Pepper is passed out on the couch. I assume because D&D ran a bit late last night, and then he didn't go to bed right away. He stayed up and hung out with me, and now he's super tired. Crow for sure fits Ghost. I definitely see Ghost as more Crow than Tom Servo. That leaves Tom Servo for Collie. Flutter as Pearl Forrester, and me as, is it Kinga? Woof can be TV's Frank or TV's son of TV's Frank Max. I'm sure that Woof knows what all of this means. I do not. But I trust you to pick a cool character for me. Today I'm drinking a chai matcha. I'm still working my way through like all the second helpings of my matcha advent calendar. And I think I've drunk most of the really good ones. So now I'm down to the ones that were kind of meh. And I forgot how much this chai was just cinnamon. So this is basically like cinnamon matcha. Ooh, Kinga was played by Felicia Day. I love Felicia Day. It definitely does not get cooler than Felicia Day. Oops, my timer started on its own. Good golly. Alright, let me get my white noise working here again. Every time I let it turn off, it just needs a little extra push. So I'm trying not to worry too much about the length here. I'd like to hit 2,000, but I also don't want a ton of filler. And if this is a shorter scene, that's fine. I tend to write quite long. In contrast, this next scene that I'll be editing on Monday is almost 4,000 words. So yeah. But I'm also trying to keep it really tight because I don't want to have to cut a lot from this scene when I come back to work on it again. Just the faster I can get through edits, the better. So we'll see. I'm a little worried about the scene, but at the same time, I'm really happy with what I've written so far, which is good because hopefully that means fewer edits. I'm trying not to worry too much about a really short opening chapter. This is the problem with edits, is it's really easy to just overthink everything and just be like, should I do it this way? Am I doing it right? Should I change it? And one of the ways that I get through my initial writing is to just not pay attention to that stuff and say I'll worry about it later, and now it's later and now I have to worry about it. Which makes editing a bit harder of a process. So I'm gonna take a sip of this cinnamon matcha, ooh la la, and try to relax and get into another sprint. Timer 20 minutes. Clicky clacks hopefully go. Fake raid because Twitch broke? Oh no! Barely Bookish, welcome to the stream. Hello, Nova Rex, hello! Attempted to raid and Twitch said no, but I'm here. I'm so sorry. I appreciate you coming anyway. I've noticed that a bunch of raids have been malfunctioning lately. I'm just so sorry it hit you. Fairly Bookish, thank you so much for the follow. I am in the middle of a sprint right now, so I might be a little bit quiet. But how are you, my friends? What are you up to? And what were you doing on stream? Let me get you a shout out. Novasaurus Rex. Did I spell it right? I think I did now. Today was gaming, playing Ark and dying to dinos as always. Nice, nice. Well, I hope you had a fun time on your stream with the dinos. I am doing edits today, so I am writing quite a bit slower than normal, but pretty happy with the results. Gonna lurk, no problem. Also gonna lurk for a second so I can move over to my other computer, no problem. Certainly understand needing to shift technologies. hate this. I hate this. I think we'll do it this way. Maybe I just do the had. Had is a thing that I hate and I've tried to avoid at all costs, in all honesty. My brain's already fried. I'm one scene into this edit and my brain's already like, screw you, I hate you. I know the sprint timer has ended, but I feel like I'm like an inch away from the end of this scene, so I'm just gonna finish it. In some ways, writing this has felt like pulling teeth. There's the 2000 mark. In some ways, writing this has felt like pulling teeth, but I know it's just because I'm being more discerning. I'm in editing mode now. I'm being more discerning about the words that I'm putting down. So it's not necessarily that I'm struggling to actually do anything with the scene. It's more that I want it. I'm no longer content with it being okay. I want it to be right. So I'm spending time getting it right. Okay, I'm happy with that. That's where we're ending it. I don't know if I have a name for this chapter yet. But that's okay. I usually name my chapters when I edit them. Now, technically, this chapter, this scene is going to get another pass because I just wrote it. I'm not sure what that Pepe Lost was for, Wolf. Was that because I'm almost done, or something I wrote that made you feel that way all of a sudden? Yeet those clacks. Just gonna catch up on chat here. Yeet those clacks. I hope I yeeted enough clacks. I know the clacks were slower than usual today, but I feel pretty good about them overall. I need to go rest for a wee while. Thank you for the advice. I'll see you next time. Sorry if I missed you, Peter, but take care if you're still around to hear me. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I think that catches me up. No, because you said sometimes it was like pulling teeth. I mean, it did kind of feel that way in a way, but not... I don't necessarily feel like I was struggling with it so much as I was being careful with it. Normally, like when I write in a first draft, I just belt out whatever, and I'm still sort of in that mode where I'm really used to just belting it out and just it going really quickly and just whatever, it's done. I started this stream at I think 2:40. So just shy of 3 hours ago, I think. Yeah, I've been live for 2 hours and 53. So if you don't count the like 40 minutes that I spent yammering about what I was doing and why I was doing it, it took me about 2 hours to write this 2,000 words, which to me feels very slow. This is 2,065 words. To me, that feels really super slow. But I have to remind myself that I was careful about these words. I was economic about these words. I was picky about these words. And you may have even noticed me going back and like rewriting sentences, things that I don't normally do when I'm writing a new scene. I rewrote sentences. I changed things around. I was very careful. I even did some filler word pruning throughout this. So, yes, it's only 2,000 words, but it's 2,000 very carefully hand-picked words that hopefully will not need a lot of time and effort when next I go over it. I'm not sure that I have a title idea for this chapter yet. It does deal a lot with the color red, so it might be interesting to do a play on red. Often I try to take a little quote from within the scene to use as a title. Today I don't know that I don't know that one jumps out of me, although Edge of Control sounds kind of maybe cool, but might be too on the nose for the first chapter in the book, so I'm just rambling at this point. I do like this idea of like burgundy blossoms of blood drops, but I'm not sure that that would carry over into a title. So I'm probably not going to put a title because, like I said, this scene is going to get another pass, possibly even on stream at some point. So I honestly just think I'm done. Anticlimactic, but I added this new scene to the novel. I'm happy with what it does. I don't think it's going to need tons and tons of edits when it comes down to it. The last thing is, like I said, I just have a little bit of formatting to slip in there because I format my books as I go. Although normally I wouldn't because it's not, so maybe I'll change my mind again because it's not officially edited yet. But tomorrow I'm going to be back here, tomorrow afternoon, 2:30, hopefully, actually 2:30 this time instead of like 2:45. I'm going to be writing another short for my 22 stories in 2022. The prompt for this one is going to be Moments of Perfection Are Rare. We're on story number 4. Moments of Perfection Are Rare. I have an idea of something I want to do with it. I'm kind of excited to dig into it and see how it goes because I've really enjoyed the other prompts so far. So that'll be happening tomorrow afternoon. A bit more of a normal writing scene, a bit less hemming and hawing, and hopefully a bit more just, you know, putting words down and seeing where it goes. That'll be my last stream for this week. But next week, I'm thinking probably, let me just look at my outline. I'm pretty sure Monday morning we're going to be editing what was originally the first scene in this book is now the second scene. So Monday morning at 10. And then I think Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. again, PST, I will be editing what is the start of chapter 4 on this outline. So looking forward to that. It'll be a bit of an action scene, that one. So you'll get to see why I stress out about those so much. Thank you to everyone who dropped by and hung out. I know this was a bit of a start and stop session compared to what I usually do. But this is me and edits. Completely different brain processes, completely different concerns. Hopefully there were enough clicky clacks. I wouldn't want everyone to lack in their clicky clack quota. I'm gonna see who is on so that we can drop a raid. Whoops. We actually load up my Twitch so I can just see who's around. Stated for now. Yeah, well, you got an early preview of the next bit of the book that you're going to get to read when it's finished. Let's see. Who is around? Element Eds is around. Drop in on her. Let's see how long she's been going. Oh, she's been going for a while, and she's on BRB. Let's see. Author Goddess is on as well. Oops. Looks like she's doing some sprints. Yeah, I think maybe we should drop in on Author Goddess. She's always super chill. It looks like she might be doing some edits as well, which we certainly understand. So, let me load up that raid. Check on Mr. Pepper, see how his nap is progressing. Thank you all for joining me again. Like I said, a little bit different. It's new territory for me working on edits on stream. I'm super excited to see where this all goes. It feels actually really good to be working on this project again, because when I wrote it, it felt like a total disaster train wreck. And I'm starting to actually feel good and excited about it. I know that luster will fade, because it always does with edits. I'm gonna hit a point where I'm gonna feel completely adrift and just like I'm knocking my head against a wall with this project. So I'm gonna bask in the glow of feeling good about it while I can still do that. And I will be back tomorrow afternoon, like I said, for a writing prompt. Just a nice, fun, no pressure writing session. Exactly the opposite of what this was. Woof, thank you so much. Take care. And anyone else who is still lurking, I love you all. I really do. Let's see. Let me also hit that right tip. My brain is like, I don't know how to spell anymore. That right tip of the day. Today, once you finished a first draft, take a look over it and find what might be missing, see where your holes are. This is what I do with my drafts. Once I have a full draft finished, I know the shape of my story, I know what it needs, and I can see what it lacks. Find what might be missing, and that will help you fill in any blanks that your first draft missed. I fill in my blanks during edits, but you could always go back and fill them in during your first draft if you wanted to. Can't believe doing edits is not fun, right? I wish that magical fairies would do them for me, honestly, because that would be fun. That would be the best. But I hope that you guys will enjoy seeing my editing process, and hopefully that will make them a little bit more enjoyable for me. Tempest, please take care. Thanks again for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I think you've been here since the beginning of stream, so I hope you've at least had some fun and gotten to chill. Like I said, I'm going to go check on Mr. Pepper. Gonna get some food in his belly and mine as well, and I'll see you all tomorrow afternoon. Take care. Have a good rest of your day. Or beginning of your day if it's morning for you.